Alright, what is up, you guys? I wanted to finally just hop on and talk to you guys about what happened to my daughter. I've been sick with COVID. I'm finally over it, but I do still have this lingering cough, which is a symptom, not a symptom, but a side effect. Yeah, side effect of when you have COVID. So bear with me if I'm coughing throughout the video. Didn't do that on purpose, okay? But yeah. So I am just going to cite some facts from starlegacyfoundation.org. If you guys have any additional questions, you guys can go onto there for further clarification. So fact number 1, stillbirth is a loss of a pregnancy after 20 weeks. Before 20 weeks, loss of pregnancy is considered a miscarriage, in which they can give you a pill to expel the fetus and placenta, or they have to go in and do a DNC, which is where they have to basically sedate you, put you to sleep, and remove the fetus and the placenta. After 20 weeks, you have to actually excuse me, you have to actually go in and give birth. So you have to go through the labor, all of that. You have to go through all of it. And from my own experience, from my own experience, C-section, when you have a stillbirth, isn't an option. I did have a C-section with my son, with my firstborn. So when I found out about my daughter, I figured, okay, you know what, let's just have the C-section, let's just get it over with, like, you know. No, my doctor said no to the C-section for the simple fact that a C-section is basically a major surgery, and that is putting me at risk. So I was in labor. I went in on a Monday and I had my daughter on a Wednesday night. Yeah. Okay. So the next fact, more than 26,000 babies are stillborn in the United States each year. 26,000 babies. That's 71 babies a day. Worldwide, there are over 4 million stillbirths each year. Chances are you know somebody who's had a stillbirth. 1 in 4 women have a stillbirth, and people don't talk about it. The reason I'm so vocal about it is because when it happened to me, I felt so alone. And I said, you know what, fuck it. Like, this is my daughter. This is my daughter. Like, she existed. She was here. I love her. This is her name. And I started sharing that with people, and so many people have reached out to me throughout the years. And not just women, men, grandparents, brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews of the baby who has passed. And they've told me, you know, this has happened to me, and they didn't know how common it was, because it's such a taboo to talk about babies who have passed away. And it's really sad. It's a sad thing to think that to feel that you're going through this alone, and you're not alone. Let's see. Almost 50% of stillbirths occur at or near full term, and often seem to be otherwise healthy babies. My pregnancy, nothing was wrong. Nothing was wrong. I just woke up one day and I knew my body and I knew my baby. Every morning I would wake up and go to work, and when I would get to work, like in the morning when I was getting ready for work, Eva would kick around, and, you know, I'd rub my belly, and then I'd get to work and I'd have breakfast and she would go crazy. And that day I remember I woke up and I text my husband. I'm like, hey, something's wrong. And he's like, all right, text the doctor, go in. So I text the doctor, and the doctor's like, all right, come in at this time. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna eat breakfast. Excuse me. Go to work, eat breakfast, and that usually gets her riled up. And after that, when that didn't spark any movement, I text my doctor again. I'm like, no, I need to come in now. Something is going on. And that's when I went in, and they couldn't find her heartbeat. All right. So, yeah, they couldn't find her heartbeat. I went in. the MA tried to find the heartbeat, then they brought in another MA medical assistant to try to find the heartbeat on the Doppler. They couldn't find it. And then finally my doctor came in. He took me to the ultrasound room. I laid there, and my doctor is a good friend of the family. He's also delivered my sister's babies. So I knew by his facial expression before he even told me that she was passed away that there was no heartbeat. Like, I could just tell. And I know him having to tell me broke his heart. Not just as a family friend, but that isn't something, especially, you know, these doctors, they go through the pregnancy with us. They develop a relationship and a repertoire with us. So it's only human of them to also feel some type of way about it, you know? 77% of families never worried about their baby dying after the first trimester. That's true. You know, so many people would wait until the first trimester to announce that they're pregnant. They're like, oh yes, we made it past 16 weeks. We made it past 20 weeks. Like, we're in the clear. We're good to go. And my last two pregnancies, I didn't want a baby shower for the simple fact that my daughter passed away a week after her baby shower. And when I came home from the hospital, I had all this baby stuff, you know. I still have all her baby stuff. And having to take down her nursery and put away her clothes, or just simply coming home from the hospital without a baby and having all of this baby stuff, it's heartbreaking. The majority of stillbirths, 85%, occur before delivery, with 15% occurring during the labor and delivery. So 85% of women who experience stillbirths, their babies, they find out, like I did. They go to the doctor and they find out there is no heartbeat. Those words, horrible. It's horrible, and it's horrible. Nearly 2/3 of all stillbirths remain unexplained. So yeah, when my daughter passed away, they gave us an option to do an autopsy. I asked my doctor then, if we do an autopsy, is it going to prevent it from happening in the future? Short answer, no. My last pregnancy, I saw a different perinatal doctor, which is a high-risk doctor, and he asked me, so did you get an autopsy? Did they, like, you know, what were the results of it? And I told him, you know, my doctor told me that it wouldn't prevent it. And he got really upset. He was pissed off. He said, okay, it may not prevent it, but it will give you information to look for in pregnancies afterwards, so you can monitor it. Like, you know, say something was going on with her blood, or I don't know, just something was going on, you can look for that marker in your pregnancies after and monitor it to try to prevent it, I guess. But honestly, when you're in labor and you have your baby, like the hospital experience, I'm grateful for my nurses, but it's really horrible. You know, they need to do their job at the hospital. And I get that. But imagine you're in shock because you're about to give birth to a baby who you can't take home. And then 2, you have everybody coming in, like, you know, the registration people and just people asking you, have you made funeral plans? What do you want to do with her body? Do you want to do an autopsy? And the last thing I wanted to do was do that to my baby's body. You know, she went through enough. I opted out of doing the autopsy, and do I regret it? yes and no. My thing was always, even if I knew what happened to her, it still doesn't bring a peace of mind to me. I'm very grateful that I do have 2 healthy boys after her. But it is just a lot to mentally handle in the moment. So I'm not going to stress myself for those decisions, because in that moment, those were the best decisions that I could make. Let's see. The United States ranks 48th out of 49 developed nations in the world for annual rate of reduction of stillbirths. 48 out of 49. That's sad. You know, we're one of the richest nations in the world, and what are we doing to prevent stillbirths? The stillbirth rate for African American women is double the stillbirth rate for women of other races. Why is that? It makes you question. Are they getting the same care, the same prenatal care, you know? It's sad. Stillbirth is the most understudied issue in medicine today. Why? Why? That's all I can say is why. Stillbirth is stigma. It's taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about a woman carrying a baby to full term and that baby passing away. It happens. It happens every fucking day. Sorry. I'm gonna leave that at that. Like I said, you guys can go on starlegacyfoundation.org for more information. So Eva Gianna, like I said, my pregnancy was normal pregnancy. I craved pad thai. I literally ate tofu shrimp pad thai almost at least once a week. A little place by our house, and it was my favorite. My husband used to pick it up for me all the time. I took my son to Disneyland for the first time, and I didn't go on any rides because I didn't want to cause any issues. So I took my sister with me because my husband couldn't go because he had work. But you know, I did everything right. I went to all my doctor's appointments. I wasn't around anybody who smoked. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs myself. I took all my prenatal pills. I counted my kicks. The kick counts. That's when I knew something was wrong, because I would count my kicks, and when I noticed there was something different, that's when it all set in place. Because there are some women who whose babies are stillbirth, and this because we only go to doctors like once a month until, you know, even later in pregnancy, then you go once a week when it, like, you're almost due. But if you have a healthy pregnancy, then you just go once a month. So there are women whose babies have been passed away inside them for weeks. Sad. It's sad. But yeah, so 9 months, 36 weeks. She passed away a week after my baby shower. My mom and I had just like finished putting up my mom put up her crib. We finished her nursery, hung up all her clothes. My son and I had went to the mall to get like some last things that I didn't get at my shower, and I went and got like some more socks and like bows and stuff for her. I was ready. I was ready for her to be here, and she wasn't. At least not in the way that I wanted her to be. It's a tough subject to talk about for some people. Luckily, I have a really great support system. My family and I celebrate Eva all the holidays. Her birthday, I have her small get together, and my dad and my sisters come, and we just love her and celebrate her, and we say her name. And my family is so fucking wonderful. I'm forever grateful and appreciative of them for all the love they show me and my daughter and my family. I have a few select friends who speak my daughter's name, and I hold them so dear to my heart. I will say, damn it, I keep coughing in my hand. When I found out my daughter had passed away, I had went to that appointment by myself because it wasn't like a scheduled appointment. We had, like I said, I called my doctor and I just went in, and my husband was just like, let me know what's happening, you know, because he was at work and he wasn't nearby. But as soon as I found out, I like laid on that bed in the ultrasound room, and I called him, and I couldn't bring myself to tell him what had happened. I was just like, you need to get here now, you need to get here now. And he was just like, all right, I'll be right there. And I called. Before I went in, I remember I called my mom and my dad, and I had told them like, hey, I'm going to the doctor, you know, I'm not sure what's going on, but I just want to let you guys know. And I remember after the ultrasound, my doctor was just like, do you want me to tell your mom to come in? And I didn't even realize that they were there. He's like, yeah, your mom and dad are outside. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't want to see them. I wanted my husband. When my husband did get there, this is kind of upsetting to us. When he got there and he told the girl who he was there for, she immediately started apologizing and telling him how sorry she was for his loss. And my husband was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I didn't even get to tell my husband. The front desk girl told him, and he still gets upset when he thinks of that. So that is something that office did have to address. After that, after we found out my daughter didn't have a heartbeat, my doctor did admit me to the hospital, and like I said, I had to go through the entire labor. I was induced labor, and it's harder when you have a stillbirth because you don't have the baby to help you. Your body is doing everything on its own, versus when the baby is there and they're making their way down the birth canal. You don't have that, so it's a lot harder. And that silence after you do give birth, after you give birth, that silence is deadly. I remember everything, and as much as I wish that I could forget it all, I am grateful for the memories, because that's all I have of her. Those memories make her real. Those memories are a reminder that I have a daughter. Regardless of the circumstances, I have a daughter. So when my son came to the hospital, I had yet to give birth to my daughter. And I remember him sitting on the bed, and he was just so excited to have a sister. Like the bond he had with her already was a brother and sister bond. He would put his hand on my belly and tell her to pound it, and she would kick. She would hear his voice when he walked in the room, and she would go crazy. She knew who her brother was, and he loved her. So when I had to tell him that I was going to have his sister, but she couldn't come home with us, telling a 5-year-old that, told myself I wasn't gonna cry. But, excuse me. Telling my son that, he hated me. He hated me, and I could see it in his eyes, and he didn't want to hug me. When I told him, he just immediately wanted to leave, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to force him to stay here. I'm not going to force him to do anything. If he wants to leave, let him leave. So he went home with my mom, and when I had her, he did come back, and I told him, I'm like, you know, because I had her on a Wednesday, and she was able to stay in our room until I was discharged on Friday, and they have like these coolers that keep the baby's temperature cool to help with any decomp. But when my son came back to the hospital, I did tell him, I'm like, hey, you know, if you want to see your sister, you can. And she was laying in the little nursery bed, and he like kind of peeked over, and although he didn't want to hold her, he did like stroke her cheek, and he gave her a kiss, and he told her he loved her. And that was it. That was the only time that I had with the both of them, with the both of my babies. I mean, he came back the next day and same thing, but still, like, I've only had a few hours with both of my babies here, like my son and my daughter, you know. After my son saw her, we did have, like, all my family was there. I didn't realize who was all there, but I did have, the word got out, and, you know, all my family showed up, and they were very supportive. And we didn't let everybody come in the room just because I didn't want to be overwhelmed. We just had our immediate family, and we took lots of photos. And my sister-in-law actually experienced a loss as well. She also carried her baby full term, but her baby had anencephaly, which is when the brain doesn't develop all the way, and her baby lived for 7 minutes, Raphael. So she helped us a lot with what to do afterwards. She told us, you know, you're going to want to take the pictures, you're going to want to hold her, you're going to want to put her clothes on and just love her and cuddle her and hug her and all of that. And I'm grateful, because I don't know if I would have had the strength without her. I don't know if my husband and I would have had the strength. So thank you, Maricela. I love you always for that. So like I said, I had my daughter on a Wednesday night, and then we were discharged that Friday, and I think that was like one of the hardest things, leaving the hospital without your baby. It's horrible, like, and then going home to a house full of baby stuff, and again, it's just another slap in the face that this is your reality, you know? Our daughter passed away November 6th, so that was right before the holidays. Thanksgiving came around, and then Christmas and New Year's, and I ended up going back to work after Christmas just because I couldn't sit at home anymore. You know, my son was in school, and my husband had to go back to work eventually. So I was just left in a house full of constant reminders, and for my own sanity and for my own safety, I had to go back to work. the thing about when you lose a child, your world is crushed and it seems to stop. Like, you're just living in that moment of when you lost your baby. And although the rest of the world, the people around you are sad for you, life goes on. Life goes on. And as much as it sucks, that's the reality. So I had to go on too. I started blogging and writing and just sharing my daughter's story and sharing my experience and being vocal about my feelings and how sad I was or how angry I was or just, all these emotions that I was feeling. And the more I shared my daughter's story and the more I shared infant loss and stillbirth and grieving and life after loss, the more people reached out to me, and they reminded me that I'm not alone. And I wanted to be that person for other people. I wanted to be the reason that somebody says, you know what, I'm not alone. She's going through it. I'm going through it. Let's go through it together. I've made some really amazing friends who have also lost babies, and I really wish we could have met on different circumstances, but they've gotten me through some of my darkest days, and I'm forever grateful for them. You guys know who you are. Much love. Unfortunately, none of them live in Arizona. All over the country, and that's fine. One day, post-COVID, we can get together, and our babies will look down on us and be like, yo, those are our moms. So that's my story. That is my story on how my daughter passed away. I carried her to 9 months, healthy pregnancy, no issues, and life happens. I am 1 in 4.